graduated and we were unpleasantly surprised. I say, hey, Dad. He said, well, I say, aren't you surprised at what he done for you? We just laugh because he ain't done a damn thing, you know?
Right. So in the book, I don't know if it, because once he gets from Country Day, he's at U of M, and by this time at U of M, you guys are all really
chummy.
Yes. But I guess his parents didn't have money to get to one of the Final Fours. I don't know if it was the timeout year, the first Final Four, they went to the second Final Four.
So the first Final Four, we got my mother-in-law's van. Nice, one of those, what do you call those?
Master van, was it?
Yeah, but it was when you fix it up.
Customized.
Customized van, okay. And we piled all the Webbers. We had three brothers and a sister. They all came, and his mother. They were riding. I drove the van with them in it to the Twin Cities. Deacon Weber, Macy Weber, Chris's dad, rode with my father to the, it was Men's Day. They, they probably gonna have a little nip or something like.
Right.
I mean, they doing their thing, right?
Right.
And so we were responsible for transporting the whole Weber clan to the first Final Four.
Okay.
The second Final Four, my dad bought plane tickets so they could fly to New Orleans, and we were responsible for transporting them there. And I have to say this now, all the time. Well, Chris Webber took a stage a couple of weeks ago for his Hall of Fame inductee speech.
Right.
And he thanked everybody in the world that was a part of his life. I know he doesn't admit now that Ed was this integral part of his life, so he's not going to mention him. But it was disrespectful and hurtful for a man to get up and say, all these people helped me get to this position, and just leave out one of the main people that did that, that gave him assistance and provided his way, taught him what fork to eat at a formal dinner table, what each glass was for. This is the relationship they had. And he says there was a relationship of like a predator preying through the fences of playgrounds, preying on kids, saying he loved them and then trying to trade that love for financial gain. This is delusional. This is a man who sat in my house comfortably many years, many times, ate at my table, etc. And I'm speaking of Chris Webber.
Okay.
And now he wants that to disappear. There's something psychological that says, okay, I'm up now. Oh, and I never was down, was I? I never needed anybody's help, and that's what's wrong.
Yeah, I think for all the people who know you and who knew your dad, and just especially from this, or who really know, because the thing is, to the greater public, the Detroit News, the Detroit Free Press, ESPN,
mm-hmm.
Channel 2, ABC, CBS, and NBC told the story.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
They didn't let you tell your story.
No.
University of Michigan ran for the hills when the feds got involved with this whole thing. The U of M ran to the hills, and
they cut all ties, pulled down flags, banners, and anything.
Right. We don't know Ed Martin, Chris Webber, Jay Rose.
Although we tell off in the booster also that they knew of Ed Martin back when Coach Bill Frieder was there, and they knew of his activities. Because they have long arms, they can reach into any pot they want to with over 500,000 alumni, etc. So they knew of them, but they allowed this to go on because it was to their benefit.
So we was spoken, and me and some folks talking. And, I don't know if Chris Webber's just involved in revisionist history. I think all the people, of course, who really know, and of course that's why we're here and going to be doing this thing. Right, to thank Isaiah Thomas, and I'm not knocking Isaiah, I'm not knocking Isaiah, but to bring up Isaiah and say that he provided financial support so that parasites or predators, I believe was the phrase. Vultures.
I think he said.
That was a veiled, if even veiled, I don't even think it was a veiled shot at you guys. I don't even think it was a veiled shot. That was just a shot at you and your guys.
It was. Because he said Isaiah helped him avoid the vultures. Isaiah helped him get a Toyota 4Runner. Then Chris brings that truck to my dad, talking about I need sounds, I got to get the rims. But he just act like that doesn't exist. I'm telling you, it's amazing how he has perfected his form of revisionist history. But it's going to be exposed. I will make sure of that. Because it's disrespectful to take a man who had his best interests at heart and that of the communities and make him as a villain. I'm not going to sit by and allow it any longer.
No, I think you've been more than patient. with some of them, and you guys, when you get in the story and you really, when you read the booster, and when we do some other posts, and again, I plan on having even some other people from that Southwestern area, because I wish again we'd have taped the private book event you guys had, because there was hours of people who your dad impacted.
Yes.
And the real deal, hearing it from regular guys, not guys, and I'm not knocking Jay or Rose or either, but not people whose lives have now elevated and they're on these big stages, so they have to be careful what they say and how they say. But to the normal PSL player who has no agenda, but just to speak the facts of that era with your dad and Southwestern and what was going on with those players. And again, I mean, it's not right. It's easier for me. I mean, you were connected. You were right there with Chris Webber. I think I maybe met the man one time in my life, so I don't have any. It's just not right.
Yeah.
And if it is a shame or guilt, I think, and in my opinion, I think it's a little bit of that too. Yeah. It could be something psychological.
Yeah.
And I think when you get older and you reach places like the Hall of Fame and make the kind of money that Webber made. Nobody likes to be perceived as a villain or a parasite or a user.
Right.
No one likes to be perceived as unappreciative.
Right.
And unfortunately, though, for Chris Webber, when you read the booster, when you talk to the people yourself and many other, because all the things Carl is saying, these things can be collaborated and have been collaborated by numerous people, including the federal government.
Absolutely.
Including the federal government.
Yeah. And you have to look at that. I mean, why would you want to dispel an era in your life or just lie about it and say it didn't exist and don't mention these people as being there or as integral in your life as they were? But everyone around you knows it. It's like, you can't hide that fact, right? It's in plain sight. And so that's why I think it could be something a little more deeper, because it doesn't make sense. But this again, we talk about a man who said Ward Manuel apologized to him for the incidents in the past, etc., and it should have been handled differently, etc. And then Ward Manuel said, didn't say any of that. So, when you rely on the AD of a major university and say they said something that they didn't say, and they do have a platform and a mic large enough to deny it and let the public hear it, then there's something a little wrong there.
And there's the parent aspect of it. When you grow older, you look back, because the actions of a child perceiving at 15, 16, 18 even, how I perceive my parents' actions when I get to be 40, and I look back on how mom and dad handled the situation, it may not be that pleasant a feeling.
Yes.
There's a quote in your book, the FBI agent, and this is not I did not say this. Carl did not say this. This is an FBI agent who went on record to saying that Maceo Webber, Chris's dad, and this was an agent that had over 25 years of dealing
in the organized crime task force, mostly dealing with those people, the Tocos and the
mafioso figures of
mafios, major crime people. But his statement was that Maceo Webber was the worst character individual that he ever dealt with.
That's a huge statement.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It was just time to really tell a great untold Detroit story, because it kind of covers Detroit at its zenith.
Very interesting story.
We decided that we were going to make a movie.
All right, Rich Rossi with you with Motown Mafia. I'm with Courtney.
Lewis Stevens.
Lewis Stevens, Courtney Brown.
Courtney Brown Jr.
And Alan Al Prophet Bradley.
And this is an entrepreneurial, inspirational story too, because again, I'm a real estate retail guy. That's what my skill set is. But I'm a businessman, so I was like, we're gonna do it. Sometimes when you got a dream, you won't have all the answers on how you're gonna do what you're gonna do.
What made this one unique was not so much the crime, but the intertwining with Detroit's history and the Motown era and kind of the economic decline of Detroit. And it's really the story of a family. And from some perspectives, it's has a happy ending, like you said. For others, it didn't have a happy ending.
Right.